Today is April 20th, 2021. This is the Friendship News Hour presented to you by Bummer Dude Media. My name is Frank Huerta. I'm joined today by Alex Kinsey.
Howdy doody, Franklin.
Fantastic. If this is a day you celebrate, chances are it's the same day you've had 364 days of the year so far. But congrats to you anyway.
I'm not afraid to say it. Happy 420, everybody. One of the best days of the year.
Today is 420, the most sacred of days. In April.
Quite, but also a pretty big news day today.
Very big news day today, Alex. We talk, of course, of the conviction of Derek Chauvin for the murder of A1 George Floyd. He was convicted on all three charges that were brought against him by the state of Minnesota: third degree murder, second degree murder, and felony manslaughter. And I think today was a good day for our system of justice. I think I want to take us through the facts of the case as maybe a juror might have gone through them.
Sure.
So, closing arguments were heard yesterday, and then court was recessed so that the jurors can deliberate. I think, first of all, for whatever it's worth, I think you have to acknowledge that all 12 of those jurors were very cognizant of the decision that they were about to make. Would you agree?
For sure.
You cannot be, right? I think you'd have to understand that your decision, whatever it is that you came out with out of that room, was sure to make tidal waves in the community that they lived in and the nation as a whole. And so I think it's important to recognize that and take that for whatever it's worth. But if you go through the charges, starting with the most serious, second degree murder, what you need to prove is that George Floyd was killed while the murderer, Derek Chauvin, was committing another felony. So it's not first degree murder where your intention is to kill the person that you killed. The murder in this case was the result of a felony that was already taking place. So in order to convict on second degree murder, you would have to convict on a felony in the process, and that's where we have manslaughter. So manslaughter is huge here because if you can find that Derek Chauvin was guilty of manslaughter, then you have the case for second degree murder. So what are the facts about the manslaughter? And the manslaughter is that he was kneeling on the backside and the neck of Mr. Floyd for an unreasonable amount of time. And we know this because when his superiors took the stand and were asked questions about Derek Chauvin's behavior that day, it was classified as unnecessary, and that it was not something that was taught as being a part of that police force. So if you can find him guilty on manslaughter, then you almost certainly can find him guilty for murder too, because he died in the process of a manslaughter, which is murder too. And to be perfectly honest with you, I am not very knowledgeable on the lesser third degree murder charge. I just know that the classification is that whatever it was that Derek Chauvin did or that somebody would do to cause a death, in this case, manslaughter by kneeling on his back and his neck, then that act is eminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life. I take that to be you, in whatever state of mind you were in, did not have regard for somebody's life, and your action killed them. So, murder in the third degree. So, I think it's very reasonable. I think the facts stand up. I think that an appeal is probably futile, although you'll see it.
Sure.
I think this upholds, and I think I think he goes to jail for a significant amount of time. I don't believe any of the sentences dictate. Well, I guess you could go to jail for the rest of your life for this.
Max sentence, if he's tried at the maximum penalty for all of these, is 75 years, which for him would pretty much be a life sentence.
That's the maximum.
That's yeah.
So it'll be curious to see what gets handed down. I don't know. It's heavy stuff. So I gotta imagine he'll be spending a very, very significant amount of the rest of his days, if not all of them, behind bars.
Deservedly so, man. I mean, you look into this guy's background. 18 different complaints filed on him over a 19-year career. Many of them having to do with using excessive force in one way or the other. Quite a few of them were incapacitating people using their necks in one way or the other, whether it was his knee, putting people into headlocks, using different chokeholds to subdue people. So it seems like this was a running thing, which in his history. Also, like you kind of mentioned, all the officers that were interviewed from his precinct and in the Minneapolis Police Department all identified that his use of force was very excessive in comparison to what they're actually taught and how they're trained, which I think was really damning, because in a lot of cases, I think you see police officers kind of cover for their brother or sister. I think it's kind of a code in a way. This is one of the first times where I think that I've seen almost all of them kind of say like, no, he was wrong. What he did was not the way we are trained to do it, and it resulted in him getting killed. And I think that had a big effect on the jury, for sure.
Yeah, because your big defense here is that the cause of death wasn't a knee to the neck, right? Mm-hmm. There was no evidence that he was ever constricted by his windpipe in his neck. There was no sign of any sort of trauma around his neck. Nothing pointed to strangulation or asphyxiation, which is what it looked like in the beginning. Turns out he had a heart attack. Turns out that his reaction to the substances in his body and the subsequent being put on the ground and held to the ground by this police officer caused his death.
I believe it was fentanyl.
And what's important? Say again.
It's fentanyl that they found in his system, right?
Fentanyl and amphetamines.
Yep. Okay.
And there's video that they showed in the trial that showed him out in one of it was either the store he tried to use that fake money at, or a store close to it, very, very shortly before he was confronted by the police. And you could tell he very visibly not a well person. He was certainly high on something that was making him do things that any normal person wouldn't do. But what's important here is that to convict somebody for these murder charges, you don't have to prove that you were the only cause of death. For example, if you were to jump off of a 20-story building and I had a sniper at your head, and as you jumped off, I shot you in your head, and you died before you hit the ground. That's murder.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you don't need to prove that whatever it was that Derek Chauvin was doing was the sole cause of death. You have to prove that it was a cause of death. And, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think there's any hiding from that fact. And like I said, I think the facts stand up, and really, truly, I'm glad that that's what it is. You know, I'm glad that it's based on, factual. You have a straight line to convicting this guy based off of the facts.
Right.
If there were questions about it, and questions of, jurors being intimidated, or, I mean, shit, man, what was it, last night or 2 nights ago? I forget what it was. I think it was 2 nights ago. It had a Democratic congresswoman from California making a speech in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, saying if we don't get the conviction that we want, then we need to be way more forceful in our actions. I mean, come the fuck on.
Yeah, man.
Like, if there was any doubt of the facts of this case, and you got her saying that, you had the mayor of Minneapolis saying, before there was ever a conviction, that, George Floyd was murdered by this cop. And it's like, Christ almighty. I mean, could you wait a little bit and not, like, and that kind of thing I really can't stand. But
yeah,
all in all, I think.
Guilty. But like the fact that I think that there was a video for this that circulated everywhere and everyone could see exactly what happened and how he died. I think in this case, like, leads many to believe that it was pretty straightforward decision in a way. So like they are voicing their opinion now. Should it be public officials doing that? Because that could incite riots and a lot of other things. Maybe not, but I mean, they do have a freedom of speech to give their own opinion, I guess. That would be my only counter argument to that.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't believe that somebody of her stature doesn't believe the gravity of her actions.
Sure.
You got Joe Biden saying that he hopes for what did he say? I think he said something like, I don't want to misquote him, but he definitely said, I hope that the real verdict comes, or like the true verdict comes. It was obviously like making a point to say, like, we really hope this guy gets convicted of murder. And like, how is that not throwing gasoline on just a bunch of plywood?
True.
Because if you don't get that, now you have the president saying, hey, this is what it should be before it even was.
Right.
Like, yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. And it's very, very frustrating because it's obviously a very offensive move. And I don't know. I think we should be a little bit more upset about that, because if for whatever reason there was a verdict that came in today or whenever and said he was innocent, now we would be talking about the country burning. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think any one conviction is ever worth so much deliberate allowance of criminal activity everywhere.
Sure, but that would be like the frustration of Rodney King and Eric Garner and all these other people that have lost their life, and like the continued it seems to be like a trend of like the officers getting off for at sometimes overused force, or killing these guys over and over again. So I can't say that I agree with the looting and all that, but I can sympathize with it a little bit too, man, because
I think you can sympathize with it, but I don't think it does anything towards even like a conviction. Does anything positive for anything that has to do with race or culture or how we are at all at odds. Because what
Even
did, at the end of the day, this guy wasn't convicted of a hate crime. And you can call it racism all you want, but, um, you know, this, this to me is not a representation of a giant, large, um, dragon that we've made it out to be. I don't think it's,
no,
I understand the motive. I understand the sentiment, but, um, to me, there really isn't anything positive to come out of this.
I disagree. I think it. I mean, if nothing else, it puts into the mind of police officers everywhere, um, the next time that they're in a situation that maybe a shitty cop will react differently than they maybe would have, and maybe that'll save one or two lives, because now they know, that they're more liable for their actions. They're not just covered by this code anymore of police are just doing their job and can't be personally tried, for what they do while they're in that uniform, and that's ridiculous to me. So I do think it's a win, because I think it could really plant a seed into a lot of people's minds, and it's not like it's going to turn shitty cops into good cops. I'm not delusional in any way. But I think it'll make people think twice, and I think it'll put into a lot of action, a lot of new initiatives that hopefully like will go into help police training, because there are plenty of great cops out there, man, and they take an oath to protect and serve, and that's what they're supposed to do, and that's the job they sign up for. No one makes them do it. That's what they sign up for. You're always going to have shitty ones, but the vast majority of them are good people, and they make all of our neighborhoods and lives, or try to, like, better places, safer places. And at the core, it's good. But when you got bad ones that target people, whether it's for race or they're just they hate their life and they want to take it out on people, maybe that's the case here. I don't necessarily think this was a hate crime either, but it was a overuse of force by the police on a person, and that person happened to be black. But like in this case, it happened to somebody, and
Well, I can appreciate your noble, your noble outcome or takeaway from this, but you'd have to forgive me for being a little bit cynical when the immediate reaction from all of the leaders of one side of the political aisle is that all this was a, uh, hold on before I misquote the damn guy again. But he's the president of the United States, and their words always matter. It was murder in the full light of day, and it ripped the blinders off for the whole world to see systemic racism. Now, come on, that's your takeaway here,
right. I think, yeah,
and it's everybody just falling in line and chorusing that. Like no, there's way too many people out here who are tired of being at each other's throats, and they want to highlight what it means to be unified and not to be differentiated. And to me, I think George Floyd, his legacy is going to be a pawn in a game, because, let's face the facts. This guy really wasn't that good of a person, but he's being held up, and it really sucks that his life had to end at the hands of Derek Chauvin the way it did. But I mean, this guy isn't like any hero either, but he's being hailed as this turning point for what? For like ripping open the covers of systemic racism in America. It's like, come on, it's not it at all. And I hope that your takeaway, what you just said about that, I really hope that is the direction this goes. I hope it's a catalyst for really substantial change. But I don't like that it's immediately being taken as just another step in this ever long fight for, the fight for ending racism or whatever arbitrary goal that has zero measurable, attainable outcome. Just another, just to fuel the flames of, you know, this stupid division nonsense.
Right.
So cheers here. Cheers to change. Hopefully this, this is a wake up call and we don't have to be talking about these events as much as we do.
I certainly hope not, man. I hope it's a step in the right direction.
Well, I'd like to talk about other events because there is other news and it doesn't have to be so heavy and dreary.
It does not. Can I give you an update on the Super League soccer situation quick?
I would love you to.
All right. So as quickly as it came together, it seems to be falling apart quite quickly now. Yesterday, both Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain both came out in defense of UEFA and in defense of the current system, which seems to be
somebody tickled that bank account.
Yeah. And I once I read into it a little more, it's the president of Real Madrid. This is like his child. The Super League is like his idea, and like a way for them to make it a little bit more exciting, which I think it's a really good idea. I don't see where it really hurts. When I read into it even more, I also found out that all the teams involved in this were collectively going to pay out a £10 billion provision to all of the non-participating teams from their leagues, as a way to like say like, hey, we know that this could take some revenue away from you guys. We're not trying to like fuck you guys and close your football teams down. We're just trying to, provide a weekly dose of Champions League, because Champions League qualifiers are over the course of months, and you get to see awesome teams play each other, but it's really drug out. It's really spread out. And it's just like, why? Like,
so
why?
my question is what's the beef? What's the beef, sir?
The beef is that UEFA and FIFA feel threatened that, because they've been the South. They've been the South's bosses for a long time, and they run the soccer world. And in their mind, this would take away a piece of their power, a piece of what they do. And I'm sure it's going to take away money from especially UEFA.
So my knowledge of international soccer and the leagues there within, that was like FIFA in 2010, man. That was when like the height of my soccer knowledge peaked. So I got to imagine it's something like if there was a league that wanted to take NFL players and play them in like, I don't know, springtime or whatever.
No. So this is the full team. So this is like if college football said, all right, we know we got all these teams.
Oh, okay. So it's like,
Ohio State, Bama.
It's like if Green Bay Packers wanted to play a game against like the Tampa Bay Bucks, but it wasn't sanctioned by the NFL.
Kind of, but more like if you think about it football wise, if there's just like always a separate, like you have the Big Ten schedule and then you have the Super 8 schedule, and it's like Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, these select the top 2 teams, Oklahoma, the top teams from all these different divisions that are the NCAA, that all like the best teams from each of those divisions had their own division as well, apart from the Big Ten, the Big 12, and all these conferences.
So it just boils down to money.
Yeah. So like Indiana, the Purdue's, the Tennessee, like some of these smaller schools would be like, hey, what the hell? Like this makes Big Ten games not as big to go to anymore. All the people are going to want to go to the Super League, so like that's basically what's happening. And it's a power struggle for sure, I'm sure. And I guess a lot of fans hate this overseas. They are not in support of it. So as a result
of this league that they wanted to put together.
Yeah. I think it's because the Premier League's been around forever. They don't want to see that get destroyed because these 12 teams want to go make a shit ton of money.
But why would it get destroyed? It's not in lieu of, it's in addition to.
Agreed.
Let the kids play.
But so as crumbling today under the pressures, Chelsea and Manchester City both backed out of the Super League. So there are, I think it's just going to be more and more to follow. You have other clubs like Bayern and PSG speaking out, saying that this is stupid, and we're going to ride with, what has been. It's fine with how it is. So it is coming to a crashing halt, I fear. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at today. I'll keep you in the loop as more stuff happens.
Well, RIP. I have no dog in this race. I just, I like it when the best want to get together and challenge themselves. If there was any real argument against it, the players playing too many games, getting hurt, risking injury unnecessarily.
Today is what you might call a very unofficial.
Was that you?
Yeah, sorry.
But anyway, if there was a real argument against it, I would hear it. But I don't know, if they want to play, let them play. Who cares? Yeah.
And once I found out they were going to do a payout, now that was over 23 years, but that's a lot of change, man. For free money for a league you don't participate in at all. 10 billion pounds. That's a lot of money. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I agree. Let the kids play, man. Let's see some high competition. Why not?
Agreed. Switching gears. Do you remember Brian Sicknick?
Was he the Capitol guard from earlier this year when the Capitol was stormed?
That's right. So he and another gal perished when people decided to storm our Capitol way back in January. And for the longest time, there was a narrative about this guy that he was overrun by a big scary mob and had his head bashed in by a fire extinguisher. And for a full month, when there was full team coverage from every one of our news organizations and outlets, this story was told over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And there were people on Twitter, there were people on other forums that would say, hey, we don't really know. It hasn't been official. And they would just get slaughtered. I mean, they would get eviscerated. They'd be called truthers. And Glenn Greenwald, he's the, do you know Glenn Greenwald? You know who he is?
Love the name.
Great name. Shout out to your name, Glenn. He's he broke the Edward Snowden story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You ever seen Citizen 4?
Have not.
Oh, dude, watch Citizen 4. There was a Snowden movie that came out. And it starred I'm not gonna be able to remember his name. Very famous actor. But it's a good movie, but it's based off of a documentary that was literally following Edward Snowden as he decided to end his life as he knew it and become a whistleblower. And he flew down to Brazil, I think, and met with Glenn Greenwald, who's a journalist, former lawyer, and spilled the beans. And Glenn Greenwald and his team every day released more and more of this information about the NSA and how they spied on Americans. And dude, it's a freaking ridiculous documentary. Because when you understand the gravity of it,
right.
Dude, unbelievable. Anyway, Glenn Greenwald, he's a great guy, great journalist, very objective, very very much just in search of the truth. And that's all he wants to hear. He just wants to know what's real and what's not. So he was one of the guys that was like, hey, maybe he didn't get killed the way that everybody is saying that he did, because we just don't know. It hasn't been proven. And this whole time he's just been getting torched for saying what he said. And turns out that this guy had like 2 strokes during the course of a few hours. And he ended up dying that way. And so the coroner's official cause of death is natural causes. And when I say every news organization, I'm talking about the AP. When you open up your local newspaper, when you open up the Toledo Blade gets their news from the AP. That is the news's news. And they reported the same falsehood that everybody else reported. And it's just, I don't know, man. It gets under my skin sometimes when this kind of event happens and we're just expected to just go on. Like, we don't recognize that there is no more respect for real, solid, dirty ass journalism, for getting to the truth and knowing why you know what you know and not just reporting everything that everybody else is saying. And I don't know, man, just really irks me sometimes because this is a big deal. I mean, if you're going to make the case that the president of the United States just incited a riot at the Capitol building by using incendiary words, you can't then turn around and look at the coverage of that very same event and notice that one of the very key parts of this event, one that they impeached the president for, was completely false. 150% not true.
Now, why was it as widely reported that way? Was there video that showed something of that, or was it just eyewitness accounts? Like what? How did that get out?
It was obviously somebody reporting something that they didn't know fully what it was.
Mm.
And maybe they even told somebody, hey, I don't fully know, but this is what I think I saw or whatever. Even if they were truthful about it, somebody ran with it.
Yeah.
Somebody decided to make the decision to run with a story that they knew wasn't verified, and it never crossed their mind once to maybe do the right thing.
But a couple guys did get arrested for assault, like on this guy, didn't they? Because didn't they tear gas him, and like rush him at least? From when I looked into it, that's what I was reading. That and that the autopsy did show that the tear gas didn't give him the stroke.
No, no signs of death from any chemicals.
But I gotta believe that like the rush of blood and adrenaline and him, like the events of the day before, contributed to him having a stroke. Perhaps.
Okay, but here's the thing. It's not. This isn't an isolated incident. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If all you know is that this person was a part of a traumatic event and died, then that's all you know. That's what you report. You don't report something so specific as he was bashed in the head with a fire extinguisher and hold on to reporting that story for over a month.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was just a story, and this is a little bit more recent too, about Russian officials paying Afghan soldiers as a bounty to kill American soldiers. Okay. This story was reported everywhere like it was gospel, and it's patently false. Nothing about this is true.
Yeah.
And these are big things, man.
Yeah.
Like it's not nothing. It's not like you can't, I don't know how we just decide like this is good, this is fine. And it's a little disheartening. Kind of breaks me down.
I mean, and then now you have networks that are, being accused and of like putting out propaganda, and it's just like
there's not one retraction.
Yeah, right.
There's not one, not like, hey, we got it wrong. Hey, sorry, we're sorry. We got this one wrong. Sorry. Nothing, dude. There's nothing. There's not even like. It's just like it's whoops. Get them next time.
Yeah, they're not held to any kind of standard, like the main news.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
not anymore. I forget how many millions of viewers. I think it's like 10 million. ABC Nightly News gets 10 million views a night. My grandma watches that shit every night. She loves the guy that's on there. That's why she watches it. He's a handsome fella. But that's a half hour of news. And you watch this news, and it's crammed into a half hour, and you watch it, and it's just like headline after headline after this and after that. And then maybe at the end, they're like, and then on a good note, we have a puppy that made friends with a jaguar. It's just like, this is what we do now. 10 million people are taking this in.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, just another example of how nobody likes to tell us the truth anymore.
True.
Call me jaded, but there's hope on the horizon. Because Senator Schumer, Chuck Schumer, Charles Schumer, has said, and this was
Today.
No, this was solid like 5 days ago, I think. Yeah. I just found out about it today. He said that there's going to be legislation that hits the Senate floor that, or the House floor, excuse me, that will legalize marijuana fully, federally, take it off of the schedule of drugs and legalize it totally. Long time coming, I think.
Yeah.
And very much in favor of the sentiment, yes. Legalize it, to quote Peter Tosh. Absolutely. Even if you're not a weed sympathizer, like many of us are, even if you think it's a bad thing, I think at this point we can certainly say it's not criminal, right?
Absolutely, man.
At the very least, it's not criminal.
Plenty of great uses medicinally and otherwise for it, and recreationally.
And even if it just got you stoned,
Mm-hmm.
even if it just made you down a pizza right after dinner, if that's all it ever did, it's not criminal. It's a long time coming. It is something that I'm very much in favor of. I think it's something that the country is very much in favor of. I don't believe that there is any large resistance to something like this that exists in the general public. Now, why I think that this may not happen is because I think there is a lot of incentive to keep drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be from a criminal perspective of keeping people in jail. This might be, or I think more of a pharmaceutical perspective, not blurring the lines between the legal drugs and non-legal drugs, regardless of their effect on your body. But I think that there's large public support for a measure like this. And like I said, I think it's a long time coming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy to think that you'd be able to maybe like someday like go to a 7-Eleven and get a 6-pack of beer and a eighth of weed and go home and have a great Saturday.
Yeah, man. And I think that there is something to be said about the fact that it is still an inebriant.
Yes.
And that it certainly doesn't have the positive effects that an adult person like you and I might find as it would in a undeveloped child's brain. And so I think there is something to be said about, hey, we got to treat this thing just like we might treat alcohol, and really kind of preach that it's, maybe not the best until you're really, in your own. But that's a cultural thing. And I think that the criminalization of something like marijuana is just, it's overdue that we get rid of that formal avenue to a criminal record.
Yeah. And I mean, when you would make this federally legal, I would have to assume that they're going to have to look at so many different prison sentences. Like there's got to have to be some kind of like restructure of justice or something for people that like were thrown into these into prison for years for drug offenses throughout the years, and
Yeah,
not that's federally legal. I would think that they would have to like cut them a break or do something to, if they can now, like any business can sell it. Like why are you in jail because you sold it? Or
yeah, I suppose, possibly. I guess it depends on the offense also. Um, de facto law is hard. Is hard business, man. It's not easy to say, oh well, now because this is legal, um, then your sentence is now null and void because at the time that you got sentenced, that was the law.
right.
And every place is different, man. Like it's so hard to say, what's right and what's not. But I would imagine, yeah, I mean, like I would imagine, like like a nonviolent possession or like a nonviolent, I guess, like what else would you excuse besides possession?
Yeah, I think nonviolent would be key too there.
Yeah, right. Like if you were caught with a gun and coke and weed,
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be tougher to look at. But if
Yeah.
you were like caught with a sack, I remember my buddy Brian Duncan and Eddie McGuigan in Cleveland got pulled over and they were 18. I think they had like a gram of weed, and the cop it couldn't have been more than that. And the cop made a huge deal of it, dude. Sat down, read the Miranda rights, fucking threw the fucking all of that at him, called the parents, and I remember one of them. I don't know if it was Brian or Eddie's. I love this story though. Went up, asked the cop what happened, and got a real big attitude with the cop. It's like, you pulled my son over and called me out here for a gram of marijuana? Are you kidding me? She was so mad. She was like, I'll police my own kid, leave him alone.
Wow.
Yeah, man, like shit like that. Like that's obviously a waste of time. So yeah, for sure.
I think it'd be interesting. I don't know. Like you're saying, when at the time they broke the law, so like I would think that would hold up, but maybe nonviolent. That'd probably be the caveat.
Yeah, and I can't say enough. I think the ability to allow yourself to develop a little bit before you really start diving into any drug. Really, I mean, I don't care about drugs, but I think it's important that you really are. I think like 18 is probably like the earliest you want to start any of that kind of nonsense.
Well,
Because there is significant evidence to the contrary when you got kids and drugs. It just doesn't do them any favors.
Yeah, because your brain still grows till the time you're 23, 26, somewhere in that range. And obviously these are
a little longer if you're a meathead.
And there's definitely direct studies that show that smoking weed and drinking alcohol, before a certain point are definitely more harmful than they are after a certain point.
Speaking of soft, underdeveloped brains, there's a point you wanted to make about one Jake Paul that I'd love to hear. Because full disclosure, I don't know a damn thing about these guys, why they're popular or anything. I don't consume much of the media, but by proxy of being a participant on social media, I just have no choice, and it's in my face all the time. So I do know what you're speaking of, but I would love for you to make your case because I know you have strong feelings.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I've never watched any of their shit in that regard. I'm not a big fan of the dude. I just think he's like just an asshole. But I gotta give him props for props are due because he knows how to promote the shit out of himself, and he's gone from a YouTube star to I guess a professional boxer now. And
from what I understand, he's at least a competent boxer.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, for sure. He can box. He can definitely box.
Like this isn't celebrity boxing.
Right. He is better than I thought he would be, and he's seemed to have gotten better through these 3 fights that I've seen. What I can't help but to wonder is if it is really just the result of him being very good at marketing himself and knowing how to sell events and make money with people. It almost feels like a WWE kind of like a wrestling kind of thing to me. because the company that sponsors these fights, that puts these fights on, is called Triller, and they're a social media platform really similar to like a TikTok kind of thing. And he is their main, one of their main, and they're one of their very first big stars on that platform. That's what he uses. He was one of their first whatever list celebrities of these YouTube stars to kind of pick up their platform and really push it. So I can't help but to wonder if there would be any kind of incentive for him teaming up with them to put on pay-per-view fights that people pay $20 for, or whatever it was, all around the world. I can't help but to think there would be some incentive for them to promote the shit out of this thing, which they did, and to arrange it in a way that he was the winner and would continue to win to the point where he could really either be a actual boxer, and like maybe it's all just him trying to actually put together a career, which power to him. He's doing it right now. And it looks like he can fucking box too. But I'm not going to believe that Ben Askren, a trained MMA fighter and college wrestler, like phenom, who had a good career in the UFC. He got knocked out once, and it was because he took a knee from Masvidal to the face, which I don't think many people would be able to do. I refuse to believe, as out of shape and fat and shitty as he looked, that he can take a simple 1-2 punch to the face the first time that he really made contact with him at all and go down, and that's it. I just refuse to believe that. I've seen videos of this guy getting his face hammer fisted against canvas, bleeding, and he still won the fight. You're telling me he takes one shot with more padded gloves on than they use in the UFC? He takes one solid shot and they call the fight? Really? No
well,
way.
let's recognize that we know this guy. What's his name? Jake, right? Jake Paul. He's
his brother's Logan Paul, who
okay.
I was fighting Floyd Mayweather soon.
So they're both fighting. That's okay. Which one was the guy that went to the Japanese forest where the people hang themselves? Was it this dude?
Let me look it up to make sure, but I think it is, yes.
Point being, we know that they'll do pretty much anything for views and money, right?
Mm-hmm. It was Logan. I looked it up. It was Logan that did that.
It was Logan. Yeah, well. Okay, well then I stand corrected. But I think the point still remains that they are very much, at least this guy is very much in it for the advancement of himself. That being said, I saw the video, and I don't know anything about Askren. I've never heard his name before this weekend, but that dude got rocked.
You think it was that solid of a punch, really?
I don't know what that punch felt like, but all I know is he got rocked. And the first 3 times I saw it, I was like, yeah, this dude got rocked. And the more I watched it, the more I was like, well, maybe you could make the case. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he got rocked. The way he was coming around for a punch and then his arms went stiff.
But you're telling me that a professional fighter who's taken punches to the face with weight like half the size of glove, if not more, where it's basically a bare knuckle, he takes these to the face on the regular, or he did during his career, and you're telling me he takes one shot from a up-and-coming YouTube star?
Well,
out cold?
I would say that if it was rigged, I don't think it was because this Paul brother made that happen.
No? Okay.
I don't. I think he yeah, I don't know. He looks like he has something to prove, you know? And maybe he would, but why would you risk that coming out and then you're just uncovered as a fraud? Or maybe he doesn't care. I don't know. Seems like a stupid risk to take for a guy with that much to lose, I suppose. Because I mean, what's he going to do after this? You know, like I think it looks like he wants to progress forward and not stop. And maybe I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but
No,
it seems like a unnecessary risk to take to advance yourself.
but it's really working, and now it's going to get him like shots to fight like actual boxers, which I can't wait for. I can't wait for him to fight a fucking striker, someone who's used to getting hit with the gloves, all this shit. I hate watching all these UFC guys come over because it's not their domain. And if any of these boxers went into the UFC, they would get fucked up, bro. No question. You take Floyd Mayweather and you put him in a cage with Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is going to whoop the fuck out of that dude when he can go for his legs, slam his ass to the ground. No question.
For sure. I don't do any of this stuff.
Step out of their element. This and Ben Askren is a wrestler, and now it's I don't know. It's not what you do, man. And no one's won yet. I can't wait for one of the guys to win because that'll be amazing. But it's just like it's a bad look. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, if it keeps being like I said, I don't know this guy Askren. I'm not plugged into that world very much. But if you keep getting, you know, C and B level competition, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn about this Askren guy, but if you really go into it with a professional, then, you know, I think you can erase all this talk. But if it keeps being dancing around that and just doing gimmicks forever, well then, you know, I think time will tell us. But as of here now, man, I think that guy got his bell rung pretty good.
I just can't believe it, man. I can't wait to watch Jake Paul get his bell rung. The day will come, but I feel like we're going to see more of this shit and pay for 20 seconds or a minute of entertainment.
Did you pay for it?
No, man. I found people are pretty creative on YouTube, bro. They put up like Minecraft and with the bros or like these different certain titles, and you
oh shit, no way.
Fight. Yeah, it's the fucking fight. But it's made so that like because I Triller and the UFC, all these places like crack down super hard on streamers because it's pay-per-view. So I found it that way. But I would have been pissed if I paid for that. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
what?
No doubt.
Although I gotta give it Pete Davidson, he was like the commentator, bro, and he was hilarious.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he was. It was really funny, man. It kind of reminded me of like this idea I've always had, like where I think it'd be hilarious, and maybe we should do it someday. But like if we watched a football game and commentated on it, but it's like us talking. You know what I mean? It's not like it's more. There's casual conversation. You're commenting on the game. I would be saying fuck. Like you'd be cussing. Like it'd be just like watching the game with the bros kind of a thing instead of like Elway at the 50, at the 55 now throws down. Like just more formal. I think it'd be cool. And it reminded me of that because he was like making fun of it. He was making fun of Jake Paul, like talking shit to Ben Askren. It was just, it was enjoyable. It was like a fresh air.
That does sound like a fun idea to like actually try and like call the game, but like be uncensored about it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
He just got fucked up. Oh my God. Like you could just like say so much better commentary than, you know, booyah. Although but booyah is awesome. Shout out Stuart Scott. But yeah, no, so it was interesting. Another thing in the sports world, I saw that Kobe's estate, Vanessa Bryant, is parting ways with Nike. They're letting his contract expire. And I thought it was really interesting, and I looked into it, and it seems that it's because Nike, especially after Kobe's death, wanted to only release limited editions of all of his shoes. So basically, like what it looked like is like, so we can make a cash grab and we can charge $500 a pair or whatever, and like profit off of his name, basic and his likeness. And his wife was like, "No, I want to make these shoes like these should be more readily available, especially in like kid sizes, because I guess there weren't many like kids and juniors in production." So she kind of told them to F themselves, man, and pulled out. And I think it's a boss ass move.
That's interesting because I would, so what is she going to take the brand somewhere else?
Well, so there's rumors that before Kobe passed, he had wanted to start like Mamba as his own thing, like break away and have that be like a new sneaker line. That I saw something about that. I think that Adidas is really compelling because I know Kanye and Kobe had a good relationship from what I hear.
He used to be Adidas
Kobe did? I didn't know that. Okay.
or
Okay.
Reebok, but I think it's Adidas.
Okay. So maybe, who knows? I think that'd be a really cool line, especially if Kanye was involved too. It'd be really cool, like a Yeezy Kobe crossover.
I think if Kobe Bryant were still alive, he would have never left Nike. They would have never let him leave.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's worth a battle from a PR perspective to fight with his widow.
Yeah.
So I think they didn't really, I think she knew that they had that she had them by the balls in that respect. But honestly, if they weren't going to be able to do like what they wanted to do, I don't think that they saw. At least I don't foresee um a well selling shoe commercially available all the time that's branded by a deceased basketball player. That just doesn't jive with me. That doesn't seem. Now, if you do it exclusively and you drop them sparingly with a bunch of hype, which is the norm, then yeah, that's the way to go. And honestly, I think it kind of honors him a little bit better.
Yeah.
But if she doesn't want to do that, I mean, by all means,
But I just think it's crazy on Nike's part. Like, I feel like you pay her whatever she wants. You do whatever she wants. Like,
no, why? Because you're not. Like I said, if you're just gonna commercially run a bunch of Kobe shoes because that's what her wishes are, well then you wouldn't be making those decisions at Nike, because I just don't think that makes any sense to do. Who wants to buy, Kobe's all the time that just come out that have really no value, but just Nike's decided to just run Kobe's out all the time? With whose input, right? Like with whose direction?
they would still do like limited runs. Like, there would be certain shoes that would be probably exclusive. Like, that's how it goes with anything. But like Jordan brand, as an example, there are like budget Jordans and they're still like exclusive releases. Like, it's still
Jordan's the exception because he started it. So Jordans are going to be around for however long basketball is going to be around.
But Kobe will be a top 3 to 5 basketball player of all time for as long as basketball's around, damn near.
I know, but what I'm saying is his brand isn't Jordan. Mamba, that's not Jordan. That's just Kobe. That's just his brand. And if he's not here and his wife's heading it, to me, that doesn't translate into success when you're Nike and you're in charge of how successful that brand is under your direction. And I agree with them that the best way to make it successful is to not forget the fact that he's no longer with us, and to treat each release like, it's as big of a deal as it is because he's not here. So it would be way more special for them to do it that way. And, I don't know. Hopefully she's making the right move. I really don't know a ton of the facts of the story, but if she wanted to break it away and do something else with it, by all means.
Yeah, we'll see. It was interesting though. But actually, Frank, I have to maybe go tuck myself into bed here a little bit because I am going to be hopping on an airplane tomorrow morning to come and see you, actually.
Oh yeah, Papa Bear.
Yeah. So feel like maybe we should wrap this one up, and I can go pack. And yeah,
I will soon be in your embrace, good sir. Gentle prince.
if anyone listening had any questions, comments, concerns, sponsorship opportunities, whatever you got for us, shoot it over to bummerdo.media@gmail.com. We'll be sure to answer you. And yeah, until next time, thanks for tuning in.
Bye-bye.